So today I will be showing you how to make lard from just raw pork fat like this. So in our store we sell pork fat in about 3-pound bags, and it is completely unprocessed, but it's a very simple process that you're easily able to do with the equipment you have at home. So I just have the fat in bags like this, and a cutting board and a sharp knife always helps, and a crock pot. So this is all the equipment you'll need. Today in the video I will be cutting it with, the pork fat with just a knife and a cutting board, but our favorite way to do it is through a meat grinder. I am just cutting the fat into strips, and then I will cut it into cubes, and it will be ready at that point to go into the crock pot. It's not super hard to cut, just make sure that your knife is sharp, and also it's somewhat easier to cut if it's partially frozen as well. What I'm using in this video, or working with in this video, it is not, so that just makes it a little more slimy, but it's still not very hard to cut. Now I'm cutting the other way, so it's in nice small chunks. Okay, it's ready to go into the crock pot. So I'll just take it and transfer it straight into the crock pot. And that is it. I will finish cutting up the other pieces and put them in on low for several hours, and once it's melted, it's ready to strain into jars. So I will be taking this piece of fat, and there is some pork still left on it. I'm going to trim that off with my knife, just because if it gets cooked with the fat in the crock pot, it can sometimes lend to it having more of a porky flavor, and we just want to go for a more neutral flavor in our lard. So I'm just taking the meat, or the fat, and putting it into the crock pot. And I'll just take the lid, and cover it, and put it on low. And then we will let it cook for several hours. Okay, so the fat has been cooking for a while now, and it is mostly liquefied, and there are some pieces left that are not liquefied, and we'll just have that when you make lard. So to strain this, I am going to just have a bowl here with a wire mesh strainer in it, and I'll do my initial strain into here. So I'll pretty much just take this and pour it in. Break these up, make sure they're nice and drained out. So I'm just going to kind of take these and press them out just to get any lard in there that might be just kind of hanging out in there. So at this point, you have you have the leftover fat pieces in here, and this is what's called cracklins. So if you wanted to, you could go ahead and fry them up. And now I'm going to transfer the bowl into just wide mouth quart jars. They're pretty easy to get into. And I will just go ahead and do another strain, just if anything any pieces of the cracklins got into the lard, I'll just run it through this wire mesh strainer and then put some cheesecloth in there for an extra fine strain. So I'm putting the rest in a wide mouth pint just because there's not a lot left, and that'll depend on the amount of fat that you do in the first place. We didn't do a whole lot because we only had a bag. So here is the lard we made, and I will just let it sit uncovered on the counter until it cools completely, and you can tell it's cool by it solidifying. It should turn a nice creamy white, and then at that point we'll put the lids on the jars and just go ahead and put these in the fridge, and it should keep in the fridge for a long time. We like to use lard for anything from seasoning cast iron pans to use in things like cookies and biscuits and stuff like that. It's a pretty basic, neutral animal fat to use in your cooking. Thank you so much for watching this video on how to make lard. And if you are looking for a good source of pasture-raised pork fat to make lard, we carry it in our store. So be sure to stop by and grab some and go through the easy process of making lard.